Kakadosh Boker Tov. We are Masechet Shekalim Daf Yod. So this is page 10. Okay, 10a1. We are now in the Gemara, where the Gemara is referring to a common concept which is called Atekwani. There were certain times, and this is the Gemara Masechet Tanit, Kavav Mudal says that there were 9 days in the year, which was the Zman of Atekwani ve'a'am. Okay, the time where they used to bring the wood to the Mizbeach, to the altar. Okay, so says the Gemara, Ma ra'a zman Atekwani ve'a'am limanot. Right, why are these days so special? Right, for the Zman of Atekwani ve'a'am, you could bring whatever you want. Imagine right now I want to bring wood, right, for the sacrifice, for the altar. I can't bring it. Why not? Ella b'sha she'alu Yisrael min ha'gola. But rather, when Bnei Yisrael came up from the diaspora, right, with Ezra Sofer, velo matzu etzim balishka, they didn't find any wood for the Bet HaMikdash. Ve'amdu elu v'nitnadvu etzim mishel atzman u'masrum el tzibur. There were certain families that they came and they gave wood from themselves to the tzibur. Ve'karvu mehen korbanot tzibur, so they brought the korbanot tzibur. V'yitznu imahen neviim shebenehem, so the neviim during that generation they made a condition. Shafilu lishka melea etzim, that even if it's going to be full of wood, ve'amdu elu v'nitnadvu etzim mishel atzman, and they came and they donated from their own wood. Shelo yehe korban mitkarev el mishelahen tchila. They have first rights. This, by the way, is a very important concept of hakarat hatov. In the time of need, right? All of a sudden they came, they stepped up to the plate. Yeah, think about it. Right? They were in the time of need. They stepped up to the plate. They came, right, and they helped out. Right? They did it. But what happens now? What happens now is, without even realizing, is that even though later on in time we don't need them anymore, we can't turn our backs to them. They always still have the first rights. So even though we have full of wood, we don't need them. We can tell them, thank you very much. Next time we need you, we'll call you. No. They bring wood, theirs comes first. Why? They gave it to us in the time of need. When we were in need, they helped us. That's the way it is. Yeah, very important. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yacha, says Rabbi Yacha, Rabbi Yosahi. This is going in the accordance, this Braita is in accordance to Rabbi Yoseh, right? The Rabbi Yosah, Omer says Rabbi Yosah, Afa rotze mitznadev, even if a person wanted to come and he wanted to watch these, whether we're talking about the flowers or whatever it is exactly for the Korban HaOmen, right? For the grain and everything for the Korban HaOmen and the Shtei Lechem, Shomer Chinam, right? It says over here, even though he's going to become a Shomer Chinam for everything, says Rabbi Yoseh, there's no problem. You could still use it as a korban tzibur. Why? Because, right, he's giving over something from himself to the tzibur, and it's not considered that it's like a yachid for the tzibur. It's considered a tzibur. Okay? Fine. Rabbi Yoseh b'shem Rabbi Ila. Says Rabbi Yoseh in the name of Rabbi Ila. Divrei akolhi. Really, be'emet, our Braitan is in accordance to everybody. Ma pligin, right? What is the machloka between Rabbi Yoseh and Chachamim? Begufo shel korban. To do with the animal, right, and the grain to do with a korban, of a machshideh korban, but anything which is a machshid for a korban, for example, the wood is not the korban itself. The animal is the korban itself. The korban omer, which they were watching over, this barley, it was the korban itself. Here it's the wood, which is a machshid for the korban. It makes the korban be able to be brought, because you put the wood on the mizbeach, and then you're able to bring the korban. It says here, kol ha'am modai, everybody agrees, that it's going to be different, a korban yachid to a korban tzibur. Okay, very good. Tani isha she'asta ketonet libna keshera vilvad shetimtzera latzibur. Imagine right now a woman comes and she made a ketonet of bigdei kivuna for her son, which was a kohen gadol. It's going to be kosher for him to use this ketonet as long as she gives it over to the tzibur. Which means even though the clothing of the bigdei kivuna has to be from the tzibur, it cannot be from an individual. Since the woman is giving over letovat tzibur, which is basically the mother of the kohen gadol, she's giving it over, right? Letovat tzibur, so therefore there's not going to be any problem. Okay, she's allowed to do that. Okay, no problem. Amar Rabbi Acha, says Rabbi Acha, to Rabbi Yosehi, he says this is also going according to Rabbi Yoseh. Rabbi Yoseh Omer, Rabbi Yoseh says, if a person wanted to, they could become like a shomer chinam, and there's no problem whatsoever. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yoseh b'shem Rabbi Ila, Divra kolhi. This Rabbi Yosef is going in accordance to Rabbi Ilah. It's according to everybody. Ma pligin begufo shel korban. When is the machlok between them? Only in the goof of the korban, which means in an animal or grains which are actually brought. But in machshirin, kol ha'mamodai, everyone agrees that it could change from a korban yachid to a korban tzibur. There's no problem. So therefore, according to everybody, it's going to be okay, right? Right, and there's no point. That means it's not only according to the shita of Rabbi Yosef, it's according to everybody, because these are only things which are the machshirim of the korban and not the korban itself. Okay, matznita misayel Rabbi Yosef. So our braita is actually a proof to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Ilah, is we learned Otana Yamim during those 9 days, right? That they used to make like a Yom Tov for the 9 families over there, right? It says over here, Noagim b'shat korban v'shelo b'shat korban. Whether it was during the time the Bet HaMikdash was Kayam or not Kayam, there was always going to be a Yom Tov for that family. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Rabbi Yosef says, "En noagin al mishat korban bilvad." It's only going to be during the time when there's a Bet HaMikdash and you have the korbanot there. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok, "Anu hayinu mibnei Senah ben Binyamin." We were one of those 9 families that they used to bring the etzim. There was like a Yom Tov, a korban etzim for them, which was, it says over here, on the 10th of Av. V'echal Tisha B'Av liot b'Shabbat, and then Tisha B'Av fell out on Shabbat. V'dachinu oto lemotzei Shabbat. So we pushed off Tisha B'Av to Motzei Shabbat, which means the 10th of Av. V'ayinu mitanin, but so we used to start the fast, ve'lo mashlimin, but we wouldn't finish the fast. Why? Because since that day was a Yom Tov for them, so therefore, since it was a Yom Tov, they used to start the fast of Tisha B'Av. Remember, Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbat, you push it up to Sunday. Okay? So, but that year, it was pushed up to Sunday. Now, that Sunday was the 10th of Av. The 10th of Av for them was a big Yom Tov, because they used to bring the wood in the Bet HaMikdash. So they started the fast, but they wouldn't finish the fast. Why? It was a Yom Tov for them. Since it was a Yom Tov, they would push it off. So they wouldn't finish the actual fast. Says the Gemara, okay, 2 dots. So we already said that the Korban HaOmer, Shtei HaLechem, right? The Shtei HaLechem, the 2 breads on Shavuot, Lechem HaPanim every single Shabbat, and all the Korbanot Tzibur, right? They used to take their wages from the Trumat HaLishka. So we skip out the brackets, remember, yeah? Tamantanina. So we'll skip a few, I think it's like 2 or 3 lines, right? Tamantanina. We learn over there. All the korbanot of the yachid, right, or the tzibur, they come whether from Eretz Yisrael or from Chutz Laaretz. Whether it's going to be chadash or yashan, either or. Chutz, except for the korban haomer, u'shtei halechem. Shem ba'in ela min hachadash min haaretz. It has to come from Eretz Yisrael and from the new crop. Okay, says Rav Huna b'shem Rabbi Yirmiyah. Says Rav Huna in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah. To Rabbi Ishmael, this is actually in the name according to Rabbi Ishmael. To Rabbi Ishmael, Omer, Rabbi Ishmael says, "En Omer bami Surya." The Omer does not come from Surya, and Kol came from other places in Chutz Laaretz. So it says here, Rabbi Ishmael is arguing on Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda that he's going to make it kosher to what Chutz Laaretz min Chat Omer, as we just mentioned above. Okay, so Tamantanina over there we learned Eser Kiddushot. There are actually going to be 10 different types of Kiddushot. Eretz Yisrael mekudashet mikol ha'aratzot. Do you know that Eretz Yisrael is holier than all the other lands? Mai Kedushata. What is the Kedusha? Because we bring from it the Korban HaOmer, the Bikurim, the first fruits, and the Shtei HaLechem. So all these things we do only from Eretz Yisrael, and that's why Eretz Yisrael is holier. Okay, we're in the middle of Daf Yod Amud Aleph. Okay, which they don't bring it from any other of the lands. Okay, so says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmueli says in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, this is Rabbi Shmueli. Rabbi Shmuel says that the Omer cannot be brought, right? En Omer ba min Surya, it cannot be brought from Syria, and Kol Sheken, all the other lands. Okay, Tamantanina. We also learned over there in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Rabbi Shmuel says, right? He comes and he says as follows. Yeah, ma charish reshut, just like the charisha is a reshut, right? Af katzir reshut, so to the katzir is reshut, which means just like the charisha, which plowing on Shabbat, we know it's a sur, but it's only a sur if it's a charisha reshut. If it's not going to be a charisha mitzvah, because the Torah did not prohibit any charisha, which is a mitzvah. So to the kitzira, which is the reaping, also it's going to be a sur on Shabbat, only if it's going to be a reshut, but not a mitzvah. Yatsa katzira omer she mitzvah. This comes to exclude the katzira omer, right? Which it says over here, which is a mitzvah and it's not a shoot. And the Torah said that we have to actually come and reap for the Korban HaOmer. And therefore, if it comes out on Shabbat, it pushes off the Yisur of Shabbat, which means you're allowed to come and you're allowed to reap on Shabbat if it comes out on Shabbat, the Korban HaOmer. Meaning, if Pesach was on Thursday night, and therefore the Korban HaOmer is going to be on Friday night and Shabbat morning, basically. So if it's going to be on Shabbat morning, they would come and they would reap. They would reap on Shabbat because it pushes off. Okay? Very good. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Ishmael kedate, and Rabbi Ishmael goes according to his reasoning. Rabbi Ishmael damar en Omer ba min Syria, because says Rabbi Ishmael that the Omer cannot be brought from Syria. Kedate damar yatsa kasira Omer shu mitzvah, because he holds that it's a mitzvah. So since it's a mitzvah that pushes off Shabbat, that's why you can't bring it from anywhere else. You have to bring it from Eretz Yisrael. So Amar, right? Mantana shomre sefichi b'shvi notlin tzchar mitrumat lishka. Who's the one that holds that the ones that are watching over all the things of Shavit, right? They are going to take their salaries from the Tumat Lishka. It's a Bishmael. Why? Because he says that since the Omer cannot come from Chutzaret, so therefore you're going to take the salaries from, right? From what? From the Tumat Lishka. Amar Rabbi Yosef says, Rabbi Yosef, it's not true. So Divra Koli, everyone agrees with that, right? Why? Lo matzu beSuria mevinota misfechin sheberetz Yisrael. Because if they didn't find anything in Syria, they would take it, bring it from Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, you see that they would also be able to. Why? Because maybe they're not going to find anything in Chutzaretz, and if they're not going to find the Chutzaretz, then it's according to everybody, and they would take it from Syria. So that's why they're doing it, right? Fine. So now that we just said that it's permitted to come and to reap, right? The Omer, the Tzorech HaOmer, it says over here like this as follows: Hahen Omer. This Omer. Can we also plant it on Shavit or not? Right? That means, let's say we didn't find any, can we plant it now on Shavit and that way we could use it or not? Because we just said, more. Right? You're not allowed to plant on Shavit. So Rebchia bar Ada kumer Rabbi Mana. Rebchia bar Ada, right, asked this question in front of Rabbi Mana. And he said, Lo nimtza vekometz kekometz shel shiraim shen nechalim. If you couldn't find, right, in that which was planted in the Shavit, like a kometz of the shiraim which is not eaten, right? Which means that if it was going to be planted on Shvit, so the barley is asur to eat it, right? So you can't bring the Korban HaOmer from it. So Mimela, you can't even ask if it's permitted to plant on Shvit because that means you're not allowed to. Okay? So says the, right? Right? So says the Gemara, Amalei comes and he says, Nasa kachamishat varim shem bain tuma ben achlim atuma. This becomes like 5 things, right, which are coming with tum'ah, but they're not eaten with tum'ah, which means there are 5 different korbanot tzibur, the Mishnam Psachim, right, that we just finished, Ayin Vav Amud Bet. There it says there are going to be 5 different types of korbanot that when we really need to, we bring them with tum'ah, right? But even though they could be brought with tum'ah, right, that's the concept of tum'ah utra b'tzibur, that the tum'ah was permitted in a tzibur, but you cannot eat it because it's tameh. So you can't eat it, right, but you could bring it. Okay? So says the Gemara, Keitzad Hoseh, right? How do you do exactly? How do you pay? So it says here, Notel Ma'od min shulchani. You're going to take money as a loan from the shulchani, from the money changers. And you're going to give it to the reapers and the ones that are watching over for the rewards until the omer was not brought. They're going to bring money, right, from the Trumat Lishka, and they're going to be Michalim Lav, that omer, right? And therefore by that, right, it's going to come out that the money came out Lechulin, right? And then they could pay back to the Shulchani his money. V'tavut ken, right? And it says over here, and it says what? Is it actually good to do that? Right? What? We're going to come and we're going to bring the Omer. A lot of the Omer is going to go to waste. So it's not proper to come and to start being mechalel on something that at the end it's going to go to waste. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Acha b'shem Rabbi Ba, says Rabbi Acha in the name of Rabbi Ba, kol ma sheiten henen dama mishari shona. He says, no, anything that you're going to give for the Omer at the end, right, they're going to pay for the mishalmim, the mishalmei sfichim, for the ones which are the ones that are watching over the sfichim, right, they're watching over the produce, right, mishari shona from the beginning, which means that they're going to do it from the beginning, they're going to already do that, right, in order to pay it back. So therefore, you're not doing anything extra. You're doing the exact amount from the beginning. You already know how much you need in order to pay them back. Tana'af bepatache avaninke. The Bright also learned this to do with the ones which are actually coming and they're chiseling out the stones for the Bet HaMikdash, the same thing as well. Okay, we pay them as well. Keitzad say, how do you do? You're going to take money from the shulchanim. You're going to give it to the ones that are chiseling out and coming and getting the stones. Until they didn't come and they put them on the shurat avanim in the binyan. Once they put it on the binyan, once they put it on the building, they're going to give money from the Tumat Lishka, and then they're going to come and they're going to put it on the stone. And that's why it's good. The stone is going to become holy, and the money is not going to become unholy. And then they could come and they could pay back the shulchani, the guy, the money changer, for their loan that they took in order to pay everyone. So says the Gemara, Tavutken, is it good to do so? So answers the Gemara, the same answer of Yosef. Right, it was all from the beginning. I mean, from the beginning, they already knew that it was going to be done in such a fashion, and therefore, there was no problem whatsoever. Yod Amud Bet, right? Nu Mishnah, 10b, okay? Para v'sayir mishtaleach v'lashon shel zorit, ba'in mitrumat alishka. The para aduma, the money of a para aduma, or sayir mishtaleach, the sayir, which is sent to the Azazel on Kippur, Lashon shel Zeorit, which is basically the Tzemer Adom, by this red string, which they're going to put into the Serafat Parah. It all comes from the money of the Trumat Alishka. Okay, Kevesh Para, which this is like a special bridge, right? That they built from Har HaBayit until the place where they used to do the Shchita of the Para in Har HaZetim, right? That means all the people that were doing Para Duma, they had a special bridge. So imagine it was a bridge. Right, many times they do this nowadays, Lavdil and universities and things like that. They have like a big bridge going from one area to another area. So the same thing, they used to have a big bridge, right? It came from the Bet HaMikdash. Where do you think they copied it from? Yeah, it comes from the Bet HaMikdash. So they had it from the Bet HaMikdash, right? Two Har HaZetim, right? So one is Har HaBayit, two Har HaZetim. So they had the big bridge, okay? So the Kevesh Para, the Kevesh Sayir Mishaleach, also they used to have a bridge in order to take the Sayir Mishaleach outside of the city. The Lashon ben Kanav, or the Lashon, which is the Tzemer, right, the red string, right, which was in between the Kanaim, in between the horns of the Sidi Mishleach, Vamatamayim, or the irrigation canal, which was in the Azara, the Chomot Ha'ir Migdalatea, and the walls of the city and the towers, the Chol Tzorchei Ha'ir, or anything that was needed in the city, right, whether we're talking about, making wells, or making, fixing the marketplaces, or the Shmidah, the security, Ba'in Mishirei Alishka, that used to come from the leftovers of the Lishka, which remembers, right, all the leftover money that was left over from last year. So that was used for those things, for security or for this or for that. Okay. Abba Shaul says, Kevesh para Kohanim Gdolim osim mishel atzman. The kevesh of the para duma, the Kohanim Gdolim, they used to do it from themselves, right? They used to make it and build it themselves. Okay. Motar shirei lishka. What would they used to do with the money which was leftovers of shirei lishka? They used to take wine, oil, and fine flour, right? And then they used to sell it to people and make money with it. And that money used to go to the Ekdesh. These are the words of Ishmael. So imagine, they would invest, that means you come from here and you see that the Bet HaMikdash would make money on it. They would buy, flour, they would buy all these things that cost price, sell it for a little bit more, and the extra money, everything would go to the Ekdesh. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you're not going to make money in Ekdesh. Aflo mishel aniyim, right? Also, we're not going to do it with money of tzedakah of the aniyim. That means we don't make money off of these things. You can't start making money and things like that. Motara truma, the leftovers of the trumat alishka, mayosim, what would they do? They used to make golden plates which used to cover the kodesh kodashim. So used to make golden plates, and that used to be like a cover on the kodesh kodashim. Rabbi Shmuel says, motara perot, right? The leftovers of the fruits, ketz hamizbeach, used to make for ketz hamizbeach, right? Umotara truma lekli sharet. He used to make it for the kli sharet, for the utensils of the kli sharet. Rabbi Kiva argues it. He says, motara truma will go to the ketz hamizbeach, and motara nesachim used to go for the kli sharet. Hanania Sken HaKohanim says, he is another Tana that argues, motar nesachim, the leftovers of nesachim used to go for the ketz hamizbeach, motar truma used to go to the, so it was the exact opposite of Rabbi Kiva. They would not agree to perot, which means according to them, right, they wouldn't agree to the concept of the motara perot. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. So the Gemara on Yod Amud Bet says the Gemara kevesh para. So he says over here, Rabbi Yishmael ben Nachman Meshem Rabbi Yonatan says Rabbi Yishmael ben Nachman named Rabbi Yonatan. Shalosh leshonot. There were 3 leshonot of Zorit that used to be that the Torah told us to make, and each one of them had a different shiur. The one of the Saida Mishtaleach was a mishkal of sela, was like the weight, right, of a sela. Okay, that's learned in Yoma, which we're going to learn next. Okay, Ava Mitzora, when we used to purify a Mitzora, a person that has leprosy, the shekel. Okay, with a shekel. Of the paraduma, bishte slaim. Used to be double in the Sira Mishleach, used to have 2 slaim. Okay? Rabbi Chunya Divrat Chavrin, Rabbi Chunya from Divrat Chavrin, Rabbi Bar Zavta b'Shem Rabbi Shimon ben Chavta, Rabbi Bar Zavta, the name of Shimon ben Chavta, Shel Para b'Shte Slaim Mechza. He said, no, it wasn't 2 slaim for the paraduma. It used to be 2.5 slaim for the paraduma. Ve'item apkan lishna basra zuz. And some people used to come and say that the paraduma needed 10 zuz, which was 2 slaim in Mechza. So they were very medactic that even though it's the same thing, whether it's 2.5 selas or 10 zuz, they were very makpidim on the lashonot of the rabbis, and therefore they wanted specifically to do exactly that which the rabbis told them, the exact same lashonot. Okay, fine. We skip out the brackets again. Rav Yehuda b'Shem Rav Shmuel, Rav Yehuda name of Shmuel. Talmidei Chachamim melamdim kohanim hilchot shechita, hilchot kabbalah, hilchot zrika, notzlin sechara mitrumat alishka. So there used to be Talmidei Chachamim that they used to teach the kohanim the halachot of shechita, kabbalah, the receiving of the blood, the slaughtering, and the zrika, the sprinkling of the blood on the mizbeach. They used to take their salaries also from Tumat Alishka. Okay? Rabbi Yitzchak bar Redifa, B'Shem Rabbi Yami, says Rabbi Yitzchak bar Redifa, the name of Rabbi Yami, Mevakre Mumei Kodashim, also the ones that used to check the Kodashim for Mumim, for blemishes, also used to take their salaries from the Tumat Alishka. Rabbi Yachar Retabchum Barachia, B'Shem Rabbi Simlai, Magieh Sefer Azara, the ones that used to be Magiim, they used to check over the Sifrei Torah. Remember that Sifrei Torah have to be checked, right? What does that mean? Many times they used to check the Sifrei Torah, just like you checked Tefillin, right? You check Sefer Torah. If you find a few mistakes in a Sefer Torah, you check it. Why? Because you find out. We once had a Sefer Torah here, right? No, we once had it, which was a very, very mehudar. When I say mehudar, the ktav was beautiful, very mehudar, mikveh and everything, like all the hidurim. And we found a mistake. It was missing a vav. So I sent it to the sofer. I said, what's going on over here? How could this be? It was a brand new Sefer Torah. It was missing a vav. It was missing a letter. Pasul. So what happened was that he checked the agah. You know that whenever you send the Sefer Torah to get checked, they check it nowadays, or the new ones, the old ones, no. Right? But they scan it. They scan it on the computer, right? And the older ones, they didn't have this technology then, right? But the new ones, they scan it on the computer and it tells you and it shows you all the mistakes. So basically, he went and he checked why didn't they catch it, and he realized that the guy that scanned it, he made the mistake because the vav, there was a kuf right beside it, so the kuf went down. So this guy that scanned it, he read it like a vav, meaning the leg of the kuf went down so much, and right before it was a nun, so it was like this. So he was missing a vav, but it read it kilu like the vav. So he went and he was so upset that how could it be that the guy that scanned it didn't realize the mistake, right? Because a person can make a mistake, but there's a scanner, right? And then the scanner, the guy that's the human being that's on the scanner also checking it. So he made this mistake. So he went and he asked his rabbi, and his rabbi told him from then on to get 2 people to scan. Don't rely upon one person, 2 people to scan. Why? Because of that mistake. So he told me from then on, that's it. He gets 2 people to scan it, different people. Why? Because even if one person would make the mistake again, or one more person would make a mistake, or will overlook something, the other guy should be able to find it. You understand? Because it's so important. You have to check. Sifrei Torah, not just, hey, I have a Sefer Torah, that's it. It's kosher forever, and that's it. You find mistakes, you have to start checking them. You understand? You have to start looking into it.
You should fix it.
Yeah, we did fix it. We did fix it. Right? What we did was we added a vav, and we cut off a little bit of the kuf, right? Too long. It was a little bit too long, so we cut off a little bit of the kuf and we added the vav, and it was kosher, right? Now we don't have that Sefer Torah now, right? They lent it to somewhere else, but it's very important. No, but you also, I had another Sefer Torah. I don't want to read from it. Why? Because you have to check it. There was a few mistakes in it, one after another. So no, until you guys check it, and that's it. It's nothing wrong. Saying it's human error. You understand? It's not like somebody b'chavana came and he said, I want to make a Sefer Torah pasul. It doesn't exist. Understand? But you come, you check, right? And that's it. Maybe it costs a little bit of money to get it checked. You understand? Because a sofer, which is not only the regular sofer, it has to be a magia. Magia is somebody that comes and they have to know how to fix and when to fix and how to do. You understand? So they're looking through it. Okay? So look how many people, by the way, used to take their money from the Tumat Alishka. Incredible. Ravacha v'Rabbi Tanchum bar Chia b'Shem Rabbi Simlai, Magiye Sever Azra, notin schar mitumat lishka. They also used to take their money from the Tumat Lishka. Kidar bar Binyamin b'Shem Ravasi, Shne Dayene Gezelot, notin schar mitumat lishka. The 2 Dayene Gezelot would also take the money from Tumat Lishka. What is Shne Dayene Gezelot? It says here Shne Dayene Gezerot, right? That they used to make Gezerot in Yerushalayim. So they would also, that means the Dayanim, the judges also used to take their money from the Tumat Lishka. Shmuel Amar, Nashim Argot B'Parochet. The women that they used to sew the parochet also notot schara mitumat lishka. Rav Huna amar mitumat bedek b'bayit. Rav Huna says no, not from the tumat lishka, but rather tumat bedek b'bayit. Ma pali, what is the machlok between them? Shmuel avala kekelim. Shmuel used to say that the parochet is like the utensil, like the kli sharet. So since it was a utensil, right? So therefore it used to be mazim alem, the damachatat. So right, and therefore it used to come from tumat lishka. But Rav Huna avala kebinyan. It's like the building, the Bet Midrash. And therefore, it was like the Trumat Lishka, right? It was from the, Bedek Habayit. Okay, Amar Rav Chizkiah, says Rav Chizkiah, Tana Rav Yehuda bar Grogarot, taught Rav Yehuda bar Grogarot, the Ketoret, the incense, and all the Korbanot Tzibur used to come from the Trumat Lishka. Mizbach HaZahav, the Mizbech, the golden Mizbech, which was inside the Hechal, right? It says over here, right? Vechol klei hasharet, and all the utensils. Ba'im mimotar nesachim, comes from motar nesachim. Mizbach haolah, right? The mizbeach of the olah burnt offering, which is on the outside, the echal and the azarot, used to come from the lishka bedek habayit. Chutz azarot, except for the azarot, ba'im mishel lishka. That means other than the azarot, for example, the walls of the city and the towers and everything, these come from shirei lishka. So it says the Gemara, v'atani avnei Yerushalayim olim ba'im. So what's that? I thought that the stones of Yerushalayim, there's milah. Means if you're going to use the stones of Yerushalayim, you're benefiting from kochim, and you're not allowed to do that. Is there milah in the leftovers of shirei lishka? So says the Gemara, yes, like Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, there is going to be milah in the leftovers of the shirei lishka, and therefore, if you do benefit from the walls of Yerushalayim, there's going to be milah because it comes from the shirei lishka. Amar Rabbi Chia, says Rabbi Chia, it's not true. Klum Amar Rabbi Meir, that's only in the same year. But here we're talking about the milah and the stones of Yerushalayim outside of the year. We're outside of the year, meaning within the same year, if there's leftovers of these coins and you're going to use it, it's going to be a problem of milah, but not after the year. So Rav Chizkiah says Rav Chizkiah, Tana Rabbi Yehuda bar Gerurot, taught Rabbi Yehuda bar Gerurot, Hashulchan v'menorah v'mizbechot v'parochet hamnakvim et korbanot. The shulchan, menorah, and mizbechot. So the shulchan, menorah, and the mizbeachs. Right here we're talking about the mizbach haolah, mizbach Torah, the inner and outer altars. The parochet and the parochet. Nakvim et korbanot. They're going to stop the korbanot. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim omrim, Chachamim say, En lecha me'akev et korban ela karkov vekerem bilvad. The only thing which is stopping the korbanot are karkov, the karkov mizbeach and the kerem. The kerem are the corners. How do you translate the karkov? They don't translate. Okay, the karkov. It says here it's like it used to come out like a pas, like a like a line of tziurim, of beautiful things that used to come out. So that was a karkov, a mizbeach. Okay.
They said a strip of cover.
The strip of
a strip of copper.
Okay, so a copper strip, right? It's a strip. Okay, you call it a strip. Basically, it's like a line that's sticking out. Yeah, it's a strip. Which one? Machloket in the Smach. Okay, fine.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
100%. Okay, fine. Velo ken, but it's not like the words of the Chachamim in the Bright. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yisrael Chanina. Terehon Amrim. Both of them say Kol Han Dichtiv. Anytime when it's written Nochach, right? Nochach, because it says V'tamenorah Nochach HaShulchan Etzel HaMishkan Temena Me'akev et HaKorbanot. So whenever it says the word Nochach, it impedes the korbanot, which means you can't bring the korbanot if you don't have the menorah, because it says nochach, right? Tsela, right? Also when it says tsela velo nochach, right? Eno me'akev. So if it says tsela not nochach, it's not me'akev. So right? So therefore, v'ashulchan, it says siten tsela tzafon, so the shulchan is not me'akev. So the menorah is me'akev, the korbanot, but not the shulchan. Okay, which was the table where they put the lechem apanim. Says Rav Shmuel ben Nachman, name of Yonatan. Even tzela is me'akev, right? It is going to be me'akev. So therefore, whether the menorah or the shulchan, it's me'akev the korbanot. Says Rabbi Bila, name of Shmuel ben Nachman, right? Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, right? And the name of Shmuel ben Nachman. Afilu sima, even if it says sima, it's going to be me'akev, right? So it says over here. And that's why the parochet, mizbach zahav, kior, all of them are ma'akev. Right? Why? Because it says, right, that you have to place it. So answers the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Chanina, kan ba'avodot shebifnim, kan ba'avodot shebechutz. He says, no. The echal and the ketoret and the you know the ketoret and the avodat and the menorah and lechem apanim and matan damim on the inside, those are the things which are done on the inside, which are done inside of the building of the echal. So therefore they're ma'akev. But here the Braita is talking about the avodot which are on the outside of the echal. For example, the majority of the korbanot are outside, so therefore it's not going to be ma'akev, right? But only the kakol mizbeach hachitzon and karnotav, those are the only things which are going to be ma'akev. And we continue Bezrat Hashem tomorrow.